Hello and welcome back to National Busways West Scotland, where today we are back over the Polmady Garage in Glasgow, where we have our very, very large fleet of, old livery buses. Even these relatively new Tridents are in the old Landor livery. And I'm here because a major update's dropped to the game. I thought it dropped when I was recording the South Coast episode this week, but no, it dropped earlier. Earlier today. Well, earlier today as I'm recording this, yesterday as you're watching it. And basically, the map's been updated to the latest data, which is always good. They're doing that every update now, which is really, really nice to see. And in addition to that, they've changed the way the game handles maps, and handles its data, and it's now much more energy efficient, RAM efficient. I thought I was seeing that when I was recording South Coast. I know I'm seeing it now, and yeah, RAM usage has gone down from about 10.5 gigs on this map to about 8.5 gigs on this map, which is that is like basically a 20% saving, which I am not going to sniff at in the slightest. Or did I think that the update had happened last week? Anyway, another thing that's happened is we've got this extra button in the map view, and it says schools, because they've dropped a new DLC, the whatever it's called DLC, the School Bus DLC. It's that. I'm calling it School Bus DLC because it's the DLC that lets you do school buses. And I'm very literal like that. But if we go into schools, it highlights for you the schools on the map. And it gives you, to start with, you get 10 pages of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You get 81, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You get 87 school. That seems weird. Why would I be getting, as my first step, exactly 80? Anyway, you get a number of schools. I apparently have 87. I should have checked how many it was on my off-camera map where I'm playing through as Capital Country Busways. Again, teasing that. But yeah, we have a bunch of schools. A lot of the time it seems they'll group schools together, so this number underneath the school icon is how many schools are in that group. So at the top here, I should have said first of all, they're grouped by the number of students that want to use the bus to get to these schools. So if I go over here, where the top one is, it is 4 schools: Mount Cameron Primary School, it's my name, St Hilary's Primary School, Sanderson High School, and Calderglen High School, over here on the eastern side of East Kilbride. But then if I go to the very end here, we have, say, Springside Primary School, and that's just that, it's just Springside Primary School. If I go back to Mount Cameron Primary School, you see that we have a bunch of little student icons on the map, and that is where the people who want to go to the school live. And for New Cameron Primary School, etc., there are 1,228 students that want to go there, which is quite a lot. So, having a sip of cold beverage. Yes, they're mostly in East Kilbride. There's some people over here on the sort of western side of Blantyre and Hamilton, and the southern side of Greater Glasgow. You can sort of see the circle that it draws for the school's catchment area. And really it kind of draws 2 circles. Out to the first radius, you can kind of see it here. there isn't much demand. Very, very little demand. And then in the big circle, there's a lot of demand. And that's sort of, in the small circle, people, or in the smallest circle, where you see these 4 people in 3 clusters, anyone inside in the circle sort of smaller than that is going to walk to school. This circle out to sort of this circle, people might walk to school. And then in the bigger circle, people are wanting to get the bus. So that's nice. That's a nice thing to remember, is that your short school buses are not useful. But then again, it shows you where the people who want to get to school are, so just make the bus to serve them. It is literally that simple. So I'm going to get I'm using the standard orange for my route colour, which is AB6000, very nice. Then I'm going to find the route that goes to this area. It is the 204. And school buses in East Kilbride, because they're in Glasgow, under the Glasgow operation, are going to be in the 600s. So this is going to be the 604. And I'm going to hit new route. And I'm going to wait for it to respond. Or I'm just going to hit schools. I'm going to do it through the schools page. It just feels better for me to do it that way. And I'm going to go to the cluster of 4 here that is huge. And I'm going to hit new route. Wait for the game to do its thinking. And there's a good cluster of people up around here, all in a nice little line, and I want to go and serve them. So this is going to be the 604. And what are those areas? I should bring up OpenStreetMap. OpenStreetMap. Move the thing over to Glasgow, because that's roughly where I am. I know East Kilbride and Glasgow are kind of different. These people are in Kitterglen. So Kitterglen 2. I'm only going to name it after one of the schools. I'm going to name it after Calderglen School. There you go, Calderglen School. And I'm going to put... So, another thing, I'm not going to do these routes as circulars. I'm going to sort of come into the estate, and it's going to go around the loop there, rather than doing a sort of... But basically it doesn't need to be a circular, because it does one trip out and one trip back. So we're going to start there at bus stop. And let's look at where the people are. Well, that's a cul-de-sac, we can't go down there. But if we zoom out, we can get a broader feel for where people are. So we can come through here, we can go down here. Or we can go, we can go around, we can then go in here. Then we can go here. And then who else can we pick up? We can go this way, through here, down here, and then into the schools. So sort of be collecting people from the northern side of East Kilbride. So we go this way. And then just put bus stops where people are. Oh, that was bad. Oh, is that not a... Can I not... Oh dear. Oh, that wasn't great. Is that a bridge? That is indeed a bridge. Well, I'm going to use that fact and serve a few more people. I like that. And that's got all the people down here anyway, so I'm happy with that. There we go, give them a closer bus link. Then we're going to come this way, we're going to stop there, there, there. And then we're going to skip this stop and we're going to go over here. Be really frustrated that that guy is... No, in fact, I'm going to deal with that. There we go. Stop at Glenesk. Now that guy can technically get the bus. And then we will put the bus stop on this little turning circle. What do you mean could not be placed because it cannot be reached? There we go. So this is Calderglen and... I just said it. Sanderson. Sanderson. It's not... There's no T anywhere there. Calderglen and Sanderson High Schools. There you go. Then we're going to go this way. And we're going to go that way, and that way. Basically just come back the way we came. Make sure that we are still serving that guy at Glenesk. Technically you can make these services limited stop, but I like to imagine that they're not limited stop. Alright, put a stop there. And put a stop there. And there. Then we come around. And we go this way. I'll put the stop there. There we go. Then we go there. Over here. This way, this way, this way. And then that's fine, and I'll call this Kitterglen. Perfect. That is our first school bus. The 604 from Kitterglen to Calderglen and Sanderson High Schools. And timetabling for a school bus is of course different, because you only have outbound services in the morning and inbound I guess you'd call it inbound services in the morning and outbound services in the evening. But the game treats it the other way round. So, yeah. Outbound, inbound, one of them's in the morning, one of them's in the evening. There we go, easy. So because we have 4 schools, we will have the information about when all of these schools starts and ends. So we have the St Hilary's and Sanderson schools start at 8:45, Calderglen school starts at 9:05, and Mount Cameron school starts at 9:15. So, I would expect we could probably have an arrival at 8:40 for St Hilary's and Sanderson schools, an arrival at 9 for Calderglen, and an arrival at 9:10 for Mount Cameron. And then departures at 5:55, 1600, or 5:55, 16:10 and 16:15 for the schools. But first I'm going to add timing points, and rather happily the game has already added the 2 timetables that we need, outbound and return. So just going to do what we normally do with routes. We're going to add timing points roughly every 10 minutes. Do that there. And 26 minutes. That's not bad for a school run, I think. So I had at least one in my off-camera save, again, Capital Country, that was like 40 minutes each way. So, yeah. Anyway, coming back, Calderwood Road, I'll have one there. I'll have one at the Aldi, which is at 15, and then I'll have one coming into Greater Glen, which is going to be there. Perfect. So, because these schools are fairly busy, I'm going to suggest that we use the VA type. And this is going to, actually back to easy mode, I need times. So yeah, we want buses to arrive at 08:40, at 0900, and 9:10. And we want departures at 15:55, 16:10, and 16:20. So let's just double check that. So, two schools start at 8:45, they get an arrival at 8:40. One school starts at 9:05, they get an arrival at 9 o'clock. And one school gets an arrival at, or starts at 9:15, they get an arrival at 9:10. Then on the way home, two schools finish at 15:50, they get a departure at 15:55. One school gets a departure at, or one school finishes at 16:05, gets a departure at 16:10. And one school finishes at 16:10, gets a departure at 16:20. That should actually be 16:15. And I'll get rid of the departure at 16:20. So we're going to run 3 buses on this route at any one time. We could end up running 6 buses on this route. I'll confirm that. And just like normal, we're running it out of EK or EK Shed 2. I'll probably run it out of EK Shed 1 for now. And we can activate that route now. Now, it's a Sunday in-game, so these school buses obviously won't run. But while we are going to be putting in a lot of new routes this week, you know, to cover a fair few of the schools as well as we possibly can, we're going to not be buying any new buses, because with the way that the shifts work, how some buses do a morning shift and they get back too late to take on an afternoon shift, so they sit around twiddling their thumbs all afternoon until the evening shifts come up. We get buses that don't go out for the morning shifts, but do the afternoon shifts that the morning buses miss. So buses that do the morning shifts but miss the afternoon shifts can do the return school run, and buses that do the afternoon shifts and don't do the morning shifts can do the morning outbound school runs, if that makes sense. If not, I do apologise, but I will do nothing about it. But let's have a look at the schools. I want to do another one to Cullerglen, because there's a lot going on here. This is all very cul-de-sac-y, which makes it very hard to serve with public transport. But I'm seeing an alignment through here. If we go this way, we can get a fair few people. We can go through this roundy estate, and then out and go to Hare Myers. Or we can go out here. What's that called? Bogton. So yeah, we can terminate it at Bogton. So what route would we be following doing that? It's either the 207 or the 200. So we have the 200, which is Kingsgate to Hare Myers Hospital, which seems to be the one that we'll most closely follow. But what does the 207 do? Absolutely not what we're doing, so it's going to be the 600. So, I will do a little time lapse, and I'll bring you back when we have something to look at on the 600. Right, so even with all of the updates that they've made to, well, the big update that they made to RAM consumption, I still ran out of RAM and everything crashed horrifically. Rather frustratingly, just as I was switching to OBS to stop the recording, to do some stuff off camera and then bring you guys back to see the network in action, or, you know, to look at one of the school buses, because, you know, nature of the school buses, you can't see them all at once. Apart from, you know, the moment at which they all converge at the school. But, yeah. So, I've missed out a bit of progress. So I'm just going to go over everything we've done so far, and then continue. So, we started up in East Kilbride, which is up here, way up here, there, with the 604 from Kitterglen to Calderglen School, then the 600 from Bogton to Calderglen School, and the 608 from Jackton to Calderglen School. Then I went down to do our next set of school buses based around Ayrshire College in Kilwinning, starting with the rather unfortunately numbered 911, going up to the top of Meadow Park Road. Then, progress that did not get saved were the routes 972 and 981, 972 running to Lawthorne in Irvine, and the 981 running to the Dykesmains Estate in Saltcoats. So, I'm going to run through those very quickly, and then bring you back when we have stuff to look at on the 97, or well, on one of the school buses. I think I picked the 608 to do, so I'll do the 608. But what we can do is check the statistics page just to see how these buses were running. So, we want a school bus. And we want one of these. We want a bus route. And I think I'm going to do my 972 a little bit differently to how I did the first iteration. I had my first version of the 972 going straight up this road out of Irvine, but there were quite a few students over here who wanted in. Yeah, you see there's a big cluster of them here. So I think I'm going to have it go via them. Oh yeah, also we now have more than 200 routes on this map. So, 972. Lawthorne to Ayrshire College. And we'll start it there and we'll head out. We head down this way through Staincastle, or past Staincastle School. Waypoint through that roundabout because that roundabout does not like me. Stop at Irvine Town Centre, well, stop at Irvine Bridge Gate, which is that one that we want. then follow whichever local service this is up through here and stop there. Then run up past the hospital. Just serve everywhere because you never know where students might pop up. Then into Lachlan Way at Kilwinning. Use the new stop. And then into there and back out. Heading out of Kilwinning and down towards that's Ayrshire Hospital. Then we want to go in to the local roads where we are serving, or that we are serving with the, I can't remember what number that is, but it's one of our locals, one of our urban town routes. Yeah, I really can't remember what number that is. Waypoint around the roundabout that hates me. And terminate at Irvine Lawthorne. There we go. That is the 972. New and improved, although you never saw the first version. So let's see what the schools want in terms of timing. Right, so I've got the timing points all set up. So now we want... I'll probably double up arrivals at Abbey Primary and Kilwinning Academy. Let's go for an arrival at 8:40 and an arrival at 8:45, then an arrival at 9 o'clock for Ayrshire College, and we will do the same for departures. Well, they all finish at the same time, so I'm just going to go with a 16:05 departure, a 16:15 departure, and a 16:20 departure. That should be, yeah, 05, 15, 20, yeah, that should be perfect. So, yeah, that's going to run from there, and it's going to run from the Irvine garage. Then I'm going to get to the 981, which will be a run from, or a run out to the Dykesmains estate in Stevenston, slash Saltcoats, more than Stevenston, but anywho. I am tired. I really need to get that extra RAM put in, but there's either something wrong with my motherboard or the RAM stick, and it's just not happy. I really do dread to think how the old PC would have coped with all this. I believe the short answer to that is it wouldn't. But anywho, it's now time for the 981 to head down to Saltcoats via Stevenston. there is the 981 from Saltcoats to Ayrshire College. So this one also has a minor adjustment made to it in that it runs non-stop into Kilwinning, which should just allow a slightly quicker journey time into Kilwinning, which means, we get a couple minutes of a later start by a few minutes over in Saltcoats, which is always nice. And the schools do care about journey time, so having the non-stop section will surely help. And there is the timetable for the 981. So we've got a doubled up service into Abbey. I say doubled up, we have 2 departures, one for Abbey Primary and one for Kilwinning Academy, because the numbers are just so large. And then Ayrshire College gets its own, and Kilwinning Academy is doubled up, and then there's Abbey Primary's own departure, and then Ayrshire College gets its own departure, and that's just hopefully to ensure that everyone can get home. So, in terms of vehicle allocation, the 604 will be using double-deckers, the 600 and 608 will be using Renowns, and while down here in Ayrshire, the 911 will be using DMs, which are the 10.1 metre pointed twos, while the 972 and 981 will be using B7Ls. Or, no, they're B7 RLEs down here. Of course they are, because they're new. So I'm just going to activate them all and make sure that they're all set up and running properly, and will run properly, and I will bring you back when there's something to look at on the 608 over in East Kilbride. And now it's time to join the first 608 from Jackton to Calderglen School. Hang on, it's not just Calderglen School, it's Calderglen and something else. Calderglen and Sanderson Schools. There you go. So, it's very important that this bus gets where it's going on time, because the school start waits for no one. Particularly not the, what is it going to be, like a couple dozen people on this bus by the time it gets to the end? We'll see. We've got just over 2 dozen people on the bus now, so yeah. The few dozen people that get off this bus, the school is not waiting for. It's very busy though. The 608 is going to do very, very well. We're now following a 204 to, well, that one's going to Calderwood. And now we're going down the main road. We do not serve the bus station. We are basically playing leapfrog with the 210. And we are now coming up on the school. And we're there on time enough. Next, I'm just going to check up on why do you? That's a 272. That won't be a 272 then. This is a 972. We can do more than one. But this is already past Irvine Town Centre. And this is getting into Ayrshire College at 9 o'clock. We have 9 on board, which isn't great. Now we have 10. We're a minute late, which is not great. But then again, these school buses, if we have loss makers, they're probably going to be the school buses. And I do kind of want to have some loss makers, because frankly we're doing too well. We need to be nerfed, and if it takes a school bus, it takes a school bus. But now we have 13 people on board for the final stretch into the schools. There's a 911 up there, again, very unfortunate number. And I don't know where this 981's gonna be, unless it's running late. There's a 272. If there's a 981, it's running horrendously late. No, there isn't. Okay, good. Yeah, that's 272. Well, that should have also been a 272. So yes, we now have school buses. And in order to try and reduce lag, I've put the camera at the Cumbria garage. So we're going to have a look at these solos as our parting shot. And to be fair, they are quite nice buses. But actually, I want to go to the Irvine garage so I can get a screenshot of our lovely new Dart. Lovely new Dart model, I should say. Because if we have any in, that would be very nice. Although our usage on them is incredibly high. So I'm just going to go and find one real quick. Or not, the game's just decided it's not responding. But yeah, I need to get the Dart so I can take a thumbnail screenshot. So we're going to wait this out. What does Task Manager say? Not great. Task Manager's not saying much in the way of good things. But there's a lot of disk activity, that's probably what's going on. Yeah. So, like, it's been productive. We've gotten a lot done. In the sense that we've done 6 new routes, all school buses. That has meant we've not needed to buy a single new vehicle. The vehicle requirement of our network has just gone through the floor. You know, the average vehicle requirement of our network's routes has just gone through the floor. Finding a Dart, there's a Dart. You're not going out for a little bit, so let's take you into the paint shop. This is our 10.1 meter. So let's take a very nice little screenshot of the Dart. And I think on that note, I will see you next week from National Busways, West Scotland. Bye bye.